Hello students, let's take a look at our footwork. So these are the main ways that we traverse space in a self-defense or a competition situation. All right, so hands up in defensive position. Our first, most basic footwork is called a C-step, and it's basically just walking, but it's walking in a particular way. So you're going to take your stance and you're going to move your stance forward, or you're going to move your stance back. All right? Okay. Our second method of movement is called a shuffle. And now there's 4 kinds of shuffles. So I'm going to get sideways. Our first kind of shuffle is called a step drag. You take a step with your front foot, and then you slide your back foot up. Step drag, step drag, step drag, going back. Step drag, step drag, step drag, step drag. Now our step drag shuffle is our basic default way of moving. All right? So get really good at that one, because that's the most important thing you're going to learn for moving your firing platform in and out of range when you need it to be in range and when you need it to be out of range, so that you're not having trouble closing the distance, bridging the gap on his defense, and you're not having trouble getting away when someone's attacking you. All right, so step drag, going back, step drag, step drag. Now, step drags can be done in all 4 directions. So I'm going to get this way, so you're going to follow along. So our rule is, when we go forward, our front foot goes first. When we go back, our back foot goes first. When we go left, our left foot goes first. And when we go right, our right foot goes first. When we go forward, our front foot goes first. When we go back, our back foot goes first. When we go left, our left foot goes first. When we go right, our right foot goes first. Let me do that from the side. So, shuffle forward, shuffle back, shuffle left, shuffle right. All right. Then, of course, from there, you can start working diagonals. All right. You only move on the diagonal when you intend to. You never accidentally go on the diagonal, because if you're shuffling to the left and you go diagonal to 1030, you just walked yourself into range accidentally. All right? So we always maintain our distance until we choose not to. All right? It's always a conscious choice. You're always exactly where you intend to be. So you should never get caught out of position. All right? So train it until, that's what happens. All right, now, our next type of shuffle is a drag step. And a drag step we use whenever we do a front leg kick, for instance. Or, whoa, I need to get that front leg out of there. So maybe I'm here and a person shoots a roundhouse kick at my leg and I need to get back and out of range. Maybe swinging a club at it. Whoa. All right, whatever the case may be. So, when I do a drag step, I bring my feet together and then take a step. At the end of each step, my feet should be exactly as far apart as they were before I stepped. So you want to really work that and find out what is your perfect size step. And that's where you want it to go. My step is going to be different than yours because we're different heights, different lengths. All right, so slide up and step. Drag, step, drag, step, drag, step. Going forward, drag, step, drag, step, drag, step. Going back, drag, step, drag, step, drag, step. Okay? Now, those are our 2 main shuffles. All right, our 3rd and 4th shuffle are called a push drag and a pull drag. Now, a push drag is a little bit like a step drag, except instead of stepping and sliding your back foot up, you're launching yourself forward. So you're going to pick up that front leg and launch yourself off the ball of the foot. And when you're going backwards, pick up that back leg, launch yourself back. All right? So pick up your foot, launch yourself forward, pick up your foot, launch yourself forward, pick up your foot, launch yourself back, pick up your foot, launch yourself back. And I exaggerated it a little bit just so you could see exactly what I was doing there. All right? So now a pull drag is a little bit like a drag step. A pull drag, you pull this in and you launch yourself forward, or you pull this back and launch yourself back. So this will cover the most ground. 1 forward, 1 back. So slide your feet together, but you're going to click your heels together and then do the same thing going back. All right? So those are our 4 types of shuffles. Now, our next footwork is called a crossover. And there are 4 kinds of crossovers. 2 going forward and 2 going back. Now, I'll get this way. From a neutral bow, when you do a crossover, going forward, your back foot can cross in front of your front foot. We call that a front crossover. Or your back foot can cross behind your front foot. We call that a rear crossover. So we can do a front crossover or a rear crossover, advancing or retreating. So if we do a front crossover advancing, this foot slides up, this foot slides up. And you'll notice that takes you straight ahead, okay? 1, 2. That's going to take us directly forward, all right? 1, 2, 1, 2. You can see that the benefit of this is my defensive position is intact. When I do a C-step, there's a moment there where I'm open, and my defensive position is no longer intact. But as I do a crossover, see, I maintain my defensive position. Now, since we're in a neutral bow, that means our left foot's a little bit closer to the left wall, and our right foot's a little bit closer to the right wall. So that allows me to step directly forward. If I do a rear crossover, it's going to take me on the diagonal. See? All right? So I'm going to start over this way a little bit. So I'm in my neutral bow, rear crossover. So I'm advancing with the rear crossover. Okay? All right. So let's put that together. Advancing with the front crossover, 1, 2. Advancing with the rear crossover, 1, 2. All right, let's do that again. Advancing with the front crossover, 1, 2. Takes me straight ahead. Advancing with the rear crossover, 1, 2. Takes me to the diagonal. Let me do that this way. Advancing with the front crossover. Advancing with a rear crossover. All right, so those are our 2 advancing crossovers. We also have 2 retreating crossovers. So let's do our advancing crossovers. All right, advancing with a front crossover, advancing with a rear crossover. Now going back, we can do the exact same thing. We can retreat with a front crossover. That's going to take us to the diagonal. Or we can retreat with a rear crossover. That's going to take us directly back. So let's do that again. When I retreat with a front crossover, since I'm in a neutral bow, that's going to take me to the diagonal. If I do a rear crossover, all right, retreating, that's going to take me straight back. All right, so let's put them all together. Advancing with a front crossover, 1, 2, takes me straight ahead. Advancing with a rear crossover, 1, 2, takes me to the diagonal. Retreating with a front crossover, 1, 2, takes me to the diagonal. Retreating with the rear crossover, 1, 2, takes me straight back. All right, so those are our 4 kinds of crossovers. Next are our 4 types of twist throughs. So a twist through separates power principles. So our power principles are linear motion, axis rotation, and gravitational marriage. So what we're going to do here is we're either going to do linear motion first and axis rotation second, or we're going to do axis rotation first and linear motion second. Let's start out with linear motion first. So I'm going to get mirror image. First you step. So the first move is exactly like you were going to do a crossover. But then instead of continuing through with this foot, you untwist. So let's do that again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Make sure you pivot on the balls of your feet. All right? All right, so linear motion, axis rotation. Linear motion, axis rotation. We could also retreat using linear motion first. So let me get sideways first. All right, linear motion, axis rotation, linear motion, axis rotation, advancing. All right, linear motion, axis rotation, linear motion, axis rotation, retreating. Linear motion, axis rotation, linear motion, axis rotation. All right, we can also do axis rotation first. So from here we go axis rotation first, linear motion second. Axis rotation first, linear motion second. axis rotation first, linear motion second. And retreating, axis rotation first, linear motion second, axis rotation first, linear motion second, axis rotation first, linear motion second. All right, so those are our 4 kinds of twist throughs. 2 going forward, 2 going back, linear motion first, axis rotation second, or axis rotation first, linear motion second. Let me do a couple twist throughs coming straight at the camera, right? Linear motion, axis rotation. Axis rotation, linear motion. See? Linear motion, axis rotation, linear motion. See how we do those sequentially? All right, and our last thing is called a jump switch, or back to front switch, or a front to back switch. So there are 3 types of switches. So your jump switch, don't let your head rise. You switch which side faces the opponent. Left side forward, right side forward, left side forward, right side forward. Don't go up in the air. I see this all the time. Just keep your head level. The more time you spend in the air, all right, the easier you're going to be to get timed and hit. So stay low and stay fast. All right, now, let me get sideways. Switches change which side of our body is facing the bad guy without moving forward or back. Whereas our C-step, or our step through, got us closer to or farther away from the bad guy. All right, so a switch basically accomplishes what a step through does in place. All right, okay, so now our next 2 switches are back to front and front to back. So my back to front switch, I slide my back foot up and I slide my front foot back. Slide my back foot up, slide my front foot back. Now don't add an extra move here. Let me get this way, right? As you'll notice, when I step up, boom, my hips mimic the angle. See, my back leg is now, and back hip are now mimicking the angle of my front leg and front hip, right? So instead of stepping, turning, and stepping back, which adds another beat. See, your hip, as it comes up, will already mimic the position on the other side so that you automatically are in that position, right? Boom, boom. All right, let me do that this way. Back to front switch, back to front switch, back to front switch, back to front switch. And our last one is our front to back switch. Now our front to back switch, our front foot moves first. So we bring our front foot back and then we let our back foot go forward. And same thing, mimic the angle, match the angle of your hips, match the angle of your foot, match the angle, match the angle, match the angle, match the angle. And do that forward. Bring this back, match the angle, step forward. 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 All right, so that's your footwork. Practice it. I know it's a lot, but it's very, very important. One of the most important things you learn for your safety.